happy International Women's Day. This is Katie Kelly from Talage. I'm the marketing director here. And with me, I have Amber, who is also at Talage. I'm going to have her introduce herself in a minute. And we thought it'd be nice to have a conversation about women and the insurance industry and just get Amber's perspective as someone who's been in the industry for a long time about what's going on. So Amber, why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll just have a conversation. I have some questions and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good. So I'm Amber Grayson. I am the Director of Underwriting Operations here at Talage. I've been in the insurance industry for like 11 years now, so been a minute, and I'm super excited to do this with you.
Awesome. Well, let's just get into it. What inspired you to pursue a career in the insurance industry?
Oh, I think like most people, I fell into it. I never grew up being like, oh, I'm going to go into insurance. But we moved to Reno and I did have some background with dealing with insurance companies with a law firm I used to work for. So I had some experience as to what it all entailed and kind of coming from the defense side on claims. So when we moved to Reno, I kind of just needed a job. We were young and about to get married and needed something. And employers here in Reno actually took a chance on me. And then I loved it. Joined Employers in 2012. And it was just a great company to work for. And I really just, it came kind of natural in all of the rules and regulations coming from a legal background as to what we must follow based on state rules and regulations. So I kind of fell into it, fell in love with it, and I've been here ever since.
Awesome. What have you found over the last 10 years or so to be the most rewarding thing? You mentioned the legal work. Is it all the rules that make you happy, or what is it that is rewarding for you?
No, actually, it's the people. That's the really, really amazing part. The rules and regulations, it was so nice that came easy to me based on my background. But I mean, there's so many different nuances, and insurance is always evolving and always changing. A state will come out with a new rule, a new year. So that can be very tedious. And while I don't mind it, and some of the new rules, you're like, oh yes, this is gonna make our lives easier. It's really just the people, right? I mean, that's what kind of makes our world go round is all the people in it. I was, fortunate enough to be in a management position. So what really, really made me happy was watching my employees grow in their own insurance careers and watching them get to that next level and helping them, get to a place in their career that they want to be.
Awesome. So speaking about growth and just change over the years, have you seen the industry change, particularly in terms of opportunities for women?
I think I've been fortunate that, I mean, if we think back, right, the insurance industry was mostly male. And as we've evolved as society and realized that women have a place in everything, more and more carriers, more and more insurance agents have become women. And I've been very fortunate to work at companies that have always encouraged women growth and development. I even think here at Talage, we have 3 women directors. So, we're small, but that's, a good percentage. And how the insurance industry, I mean, I just feel like there's more women going into it, right? Like overall, where I was in Employers, I think we were a majority of women auditors when I was an auditor. And so we had a lot of women in there, and we actually excelled at it, I think, because of our analytical thinking. And I think because we are, as women, so adaptable, we can make those changes a little quicker. That with the rules that come with it, we're like, okay, this is the new rule, let's move on. Yeah, I just think I've been so fortunate to work for companies that really, really promote growth and development of women.
That's great. I think for a lot of women, that hasn't always been the case. I think a lot of women have found challenges and difficulties with being in a male dominated industry. So as the industry is seeing more and more women come into it and wanting to encourage growth in the industry, because a lot of the people who've been in the industry for a long time are getting ready to retire. There's a lot of conversations about how to get the youngsters involved and interested in insurance. What advice would you give to young women who may be interested or not even know that they want to pursue a career in the industry? Why should they? What advice would you give?
I would say, first of all, give it a chance, because you never know until you actually go in and try it. I think most people think of the insurance industry as a little minute and a little maybe mundane and boring, but it's actually not. There's so many different positions and such a wide array of things that you can do within the insurance industry that you will find a place for you. But not only that, it's just a really amazing career. I mean, you really can grow and have a 45-year-long career in the insurance industry. And that might not be something you want, and that's totally okay, but you'll never know until you try it. I've known many of my old employees that were under me that they were that of our younger generation. I hired a lot of entry-level positions, and they actually got in there. I was like, this is nothing that I thought it would be. And now they've been at employers for 7 years, or, within the industry, maybe not even with employers, they've gone to other carriers, for 7 or 8 years. And they're like, wow, I didn't know it was this. And I think that's the biggest thing, is getting over the misconceptions that maybe, that is carried with the insurance industry, and getting over the fact that, oh my gosh, I don't want to go in and just be an underwriter. I don't want to go in and I don't want to be, an auditor. There's so many varying positions within carriers and within agencies that you can be customer facing. You could not be customer facing, that there's always a place for everyone.
Awesome. And so you've mentioned that people, and specifically women that want to go into the industry, that they shouldn't let their preconceptions lead them. And so once they get into the industry, like, it's not going to be easy peasy, right? Like, there's always going to be challenges no matter what industry or career you go into. So what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that women specifically are facing, and how can they address them and use them for growth?
Well, I think just overall, women breaking into those upper level roles, right? Like, it's always, we're still in the trenches of that. I think we're getting better as a society of, promoting more women into those upper level roles. But I think not to be afraid to ask what you want, have your voice, find your voice as a woman. I think that is always huge, that in a corporate setting, that, us as women, at least of my age, right? When you're younger, it's like, no, you're fine, you're good, and sometimes you're not good, and that's okay. And you need to go and speak your voice and tell, your manager what you want. And if that's to move up, if that is to break into those upper level roles, one of my favorite answers to an interview, and most people I think get a little challenged when they hear this. I never did. I always loved it, was to hear young women be like, well, I want to be where you are in 5 years. And I'm like, yes. I love that, because I want to help you get there.
Yeah.
And I think that that's always going to be a challenge for women, right? Getting those and fighting for those positions, especially in a male dominated industry. So it really just would be like, don't be afraid to ask what you want. Know your value, know your worth, know what you bring to the table, and go after it.
Awesome. I think that's really important, because these days, I think a lot of people, but women, are unsure of their value and worth and what they bring. And I think a lot of the times, like, they need to do the research and understand the market in order to demand that. But also, it's going to be putting in the work, right? And knowing their job and the job that they want, and going after that. And
building the skills to do that, right? Like, you might not have all the skills when you start, but if you know what you need to do, build those skills up.
Yeah, that actually is a great segue into my next question, which is about success. So, like, what do you think are the most important qualities? And I think you've already mentioned some of them, but for success in the insurance and industry, and then if you can talk a little bit about how you develop those qualities in yourself.
Yeah. Um, so I think I've talked about, finding your voice. I think that's so hard for a lot of people, not just women, but a lot of people to find your voice, and feel confident in voicing what you want. I think that's really hard. So, um, I'm always working on self-confidence. There's things that I know I'm good at, and there's things that I'm like, oh, I'm not that great at that, but maybe that's what I need to work on. Maybe that's what I need to focus on, is that um skill or task that I'm struggling with. My parents always used to have this phrase of, and I think it's Mark Twain, somewhere like that. But about like eat the frog in the morning, right? Like, do your hardest things. Like that's really hard for you. Like challenge those, go for
Mhm.
those, get those done. And it might not just be like a task. It could be, just a personal trait that you're trying to really work on, and focus on that and work on it. And I think that will absolutely help anyone in anything that you're doing, not just with the insurance industry, but within the insurance industry for women in particular.
Mhm.
Um, I think that being adaptable, especially in today's time, and being able to accept that change is inevitable and it is coming, especially in the way the world works today, with how quick technology changes everything, right? Like, so just be open-minded to those changes, take those changes in stride. Like I said before, I thought, most of all the women I've worked with were like, okay, this is the new change. This is what we're going to do. Let's go do it, and just having that kind of attitude of let's get it done,
Mhm.
is, I think, important, because the insurance industry does change so fast. I mean, it's been around forever, and we have some old rules on the book and old nuances on the book, but every single year things are changing. So just being able to embrace that, and technology, right? Just being able to
Mhm.
embrace that change and go for it. And then I would also say, I did say, don't be afraid to ask what you're for, but also really just being more open-minded about your path, right?
Mhm.
Like I remember being younger and I was so set on what my path in life was. And I think that as women, we can kind of get that in our heads and then overthink it. And just being more open to anything that comes towards you, is really going to help younger generations, right, thrive in this industry, and just not being dead set on this is what you want to do, and
Mhm.
not exploring other areas, because I went in not knowing really where my place was in the insurance world, but I
Mhm.
quickly found it. And then I was, had the opportunity to explore other areas like project management and Six Sigma. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool of this. So, you just got to be open-minded and open to it, and see where your path takes you instead of trying to dictate it.
Yeah, I think you made a lot of really great points. Most importantly about being open-minded, and I really like the analogy of eating the frog, because I think so many times, especially now, people are afraid to try new things because they're not going to be good at it. And I think the thing to keep in mind is, especially with as fast as things are changing, like nobody's going to be good at everything. And you've got to try things, you've got to fail, you've got to figure out what you like, what you don't like, and not be afraid in the areas where you don't have experience to ask for that experience. Teach me, show me, I want to learn. Because I think employers, in general, not the carrier, I think employers really want to see people having a desire to learn and grow, um,
Mhm.
rather than having all of the necessary traits. Because if you wait until you have all the skills, you're going to be frozen and never do anything.
Yep.
And the biggest, I think the one piece of advice that I really loved is being open-minded. Like, don't set out thinking that you need to know everything or have your path already dictated, because like if you are so narrow in your path, like you're going to miss out on so many great things that you could learn and do and try and experience and find new paths that are more enjoyable and bring you a lot more happiness and success in life.
Yep, that's so true.
So talking about how fast the world changes in terms of technology, and insurance is starting to catch up with the speed of technology, how do you stay up to date with all the developments and changes? And can you share some of the resources that you find that are really helpful?
Whew,
Some hardball questions here.
no, seriously. Uh, well, in the insurance industry, every year, I think we're lucky enough that the regulating bureaus will send out some of those changes. So if you are always, towards the end of the year, they'll send out what's coming. Every now and then you have a state like California that'll throw a wrench in things mid-year. So, but they're usually really great. If you subscribe to those bureaus and their notifications, they'll send you emails about, upcoming changes. And then, to be honest, in our world, the changes for me are sometimes just learned by mistake. I think, and that's okay. I'll see an error, or something that's not working on the technology, and then you have to go back and be like, oh wait, what's going on here? And then reach out and try and figure out and work through that change and try and solve that problem. But most of the time, if it's coming down from a regulation or a state rule or anything like that, they notify you of those. And those would just be the actual bureaus, or state insurance, Department of Insurances, that will notify you of those changes.
Awesome. And I think one of the biggest challenges or concerns that people have is the whole work-life balance, right? How do you find balance between the demands of work and family? And can you share some of the strategies that you found to be most effective in achieving like a healthy work-life balance?
So this was a hard one for me. So when I got into management, I had just had my son. So he was about 4 months old. And I was trying to figure out, what my management style was, what employees' styles were, how do you do this in a management level, and then also, take care of a 4-month-old and a husband and do all the things. And it was really hard, but I really had to teach myself that, when my work day was over, I leave work at work. And it was easier when I was at an office. Now that it's home, it's like, okay, no, we shut the computer unless there's emergency, or if, I need to work on, some things like a big fire that we need to put out. But, you shut that computer and I turn that off and I leave my work at work, and it's time to go be with family. And, even it's probably even easier for me now because now my kids are in lots of things. So I have to shut it down and be like, hey, we've got ballet at 6:00 and we've got baseball at 7. So it's a little easier now. But, I think the biggest thing is really figuring out how to leave work at work and not bring that home with you.
Yeah.
And so that you can really just kind of compartmentalize those things. And when you're with your family, you can focus on them fully. And when you're at work, you can get your full work.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people struggle with this. And I love a lot of the new technologies that like our phones and computers have integrated into them. So things like I forget what it's called, but it's like a mode you can put on your phone where you won't get disturbed.
Focus mode.
Yeah, the focus mode. So you can focus on work. And then the other thing that I think is really important is we've definitely blurred the lines across life, right? Life is life, and sometimes it's work, and sometimes it's family, and sometimes it's friends, and sometimes it's fun. And when people have their work so accessible, meaning their email on their phone, their Slack on their phone, and they get the notifications all the time, I think a lot of people can feel a sense of obligation, and then they get stress and anxiety of like, oh, I have to deal with this. And so I think either turning off those notifications or just taking your email off your phone and leaving it on your computer would be a really great strategy for someone who's really struggling with that balance.
Oh, I would absolutely agree with that because it is so easy nowadays, right?
Mhm.
Like it's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
So, I totally agree with that.
Awesome. And so what do you think? I think those are most of my questions. I have one sort of wrap up question around what do you hope to see for the future of women in the insurance industry? And how do you see your own role in making that future a reality?
Oh, I mean, I would love to see, I would just love to see women rule the world in general, but we kind of do. I love you guys, but there's a saying that behind every strong man, there's a great woman behind him for a reason. Uh,
Mhm.
um, but I think for women in the industry, I really just wish that they won't be fearful of going for it, right?
Mhm.
Like go for those upper level management positions. Like it has been many studies over how the EQ or emotional IQ that women have is needed in those management positions and in those upper level roles. So I'd say go for it. Don't be scared. And the worst thing you could hear is no, maybe you're not ready, or maybe you need to work on this, and then go and do it.
Yeah.
I think I hope that, us out there are raising girls now to not be afraid of that, or to not dull their voice, and to, let them know that they can shine in whatever role they want to be in.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to see more women CEOs at insurance carriers.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. And how I think I can, be a part of that is just really helping any younger generations, and mentoring them to go for what they want in their careers, and help them get there by developing their skills and helping them develop their knowledge within the industry.
Mhm.
And hopefully eventually one day I will be there myself, and and show them that it's possible, and really anything's possible that you really want to do.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I love the idea of mentorship. I think that a lot of women, but people in general, struggle with mentorship, what it looks like, how it's supposed to work. And I really think that the women who are in leadership roles sort of owe it to the younger generation to reach out and forge those relationships, because the younger ones don't know how to do that. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to ask for that. And they don't really know like what to learn, what do they need to be mentored on. And the other thing is I think is important is when and as women grow and people grow into leadership positions, nobody's born to be a manager, right? Like nobody really knows how that is supposed to work. So I would encourage women to read books on management, read books on leadership, because you don't have to be a manager to be a leader, right? You can be a leader at an entry level position, but it's really taking the skills that you learn in those leadership courses or books and applying them to everyday life. And that will really help you grow and both in your skills, your soft skills, and in your career. But don't think that like people who are in leadership positions know how to manage people, because a lot of them have never taken courses, have never been taught, and they're just acting the best way they know how. And to really set yourself up for success, I think, is find a mentor who wants to teach, who wants to help you grow, and then invest in yourself by reading those books and learning on your own how to be a leader.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I love that you said you don't have to be in a management role, because there are leaders in every single team. There are leaders in, everywhere that you look, there are those leaders. So you definitely do not need to be in a management role to be a leader. And I also love that it's really investing in yourself.
Mhm.
That's what it is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Amber. I had a lot of fun talking about this, and I hope that women who get to watch this video during this month of celebrating International Women, that they can learn something and hopefully grow and take that chance in their career.
Yes, I agree. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Take care.